I do worry a lot and do have a lot of anxiety, mostly in school. Like I worry about having good grades and make sure my homework's done. Sometimes it's just really overwhelming.
No, I don't worry a lot or experience a lot of anxiety.
No, not really. I really don't worry about much.
Not really. I just let whatever happen, happen.
No, not really.
I want things to be perfect, so if they're not perfect, then I worry about it and I overthink everything.
Yeah, I guess I do pretty much have anxiety and stuff because there's a lot of stress in teenage years. I do worry a lot, but only usually because I care.
I'm a person that has a lot of anxiety, so yes, I do worry a lot.
I do suffer from anxiety, and I was recently diagnosed.
I'm not the kind of person that worries a lot. I just kind of try to go with the flow.
Not really. I just kind of just go let things happen.
Not really, no.
I just don't really have that much troubles.
I worry time to time, especially when it comes to school or family, because that's what matters to me the most.
If I'm thinking about something too much, then I get panicked and I think that something's gonna happen, but it doesn't really.
Rachel, you look a little worried and upset.
I am. I'm just looking at colleges now and planning tours, and it's just so much to think about.
Yeah, picking the right college can be stressful.
It really can. We can be anxious or stressed out about so many different things.
The American Association of Stress conducted a study.
And they reported the 5 sources of stress most often experienced for the youth were
Schoolwork,
parents,
problems with friends,
romantic relationships,
and younger siblings.
We need to remember that whatever our worries or concerns are,
We know that we can cast all our cares and anxieties upon God.
Don't worry, be happy. That's what we'll be talking about today. Hi everyone, I'm Rachel.
And I'm Nick.
And this is Real Faith TV. The responses from the teens on the street varied from not worrying at all
to being diagnosed with anxiety problems.
RFTV cast member Madison shares how identifying the stressors
and prioritizing them in order to deal with them
can sometimes help to reduce the stress and produce better results.
Let's meet her now.
The top 2 sources of stress in my life would either be school and also my family. School's stressful for me because I'm very involved and I have a lot of things to remember, and sometimes I get overwhelmed and I have a lot of responsibility and people are relying on me for things, so I get caught up in it a lot, and everybody has family troubles and it catches up with you and it does affect you. I am the person who worries a lot, and a lot of my teachers are always like, you have to calm down, because I always want to be in control and I want to be the leader of the situation and I want to have the outcome come out my way. I do try and categorize my worries. I'll usually do it from the ones that I can do and make changes to right now at that moment, and then I'll put aside the ones that I know I have no effect over, because it's no use worrying about them if you can't change them or deal with them at that moment. And that's what usually causes my stress, is I'm thinking so far ahead. A time when I had anxiety and a lot of stress and worry was around the time of the finals. I was in such a hurry to get things done and hand in all my assignments. I had really actually made myself sick because worrying so much, and it set me back even more. I had missed the first day of exams, and to help with that and to bring my stress down and to get out of my cold, I had stopped studying and I took time out for myself to come back and realize, that I would just have to get through it. The outcome was actually really great. I passed everything, which I didn't think I would.
I really liked what Madison said about we want to be in control and we want things done our way, because I feel like I get caught up in that so much, and I have to take a minute to just pause and say, it's not my way, it's God's way, and to kind of yield myself to God's plan for me.
Like Madison was saying, sometimes we just have to take time out for ourselves and refocus on what the goal is.
Exactly.
Okay, Rachel, let's meet our studio guests and see what they have to say about stress.
Okay, they are Ryan, Pat, Stephanie, Lauren, Annie, Brendan, and Emily.
So do any of you guys get stressed, and how do you handle it?
Well, I started driving quite recently, and it's just, you have to worry about everything. You have to worry about your passengers, you have to worry about yourself, you have to worry about your speed, you have to worry about the cars around you in case there are any pedestrians, and it's just all this worry piled on top of you, and you just get really stressed out. So what I do is before I start, get on the road and everything, I say a little prayer and just to calm myself down.
Every little situation I tend to stress about because I want to be in control and I plan it out in my head, and when it doesn't go that way, I really get stressed out. So like you sit and take a moment to pray. I really should do that, but I usually just freak out.
When I find that I'm stressed out with either school or family, I find it helps a lot to write it down. And my mom gave me a prayer book to write all my troubles down in, and I find that helps me a lot.
I know now I'm really stressed about all the schoolwork I have to do for the summer because school's almost starting again. And I know like I need to take a break from it. I'll go outside, ride my bike for a little bit, and then I'll come back to my work.
Yeah, same thing. Like I have so much going on in school and I'm in a very competitive school district. So I feel like I'm always trying to be the best and trying to push myself, and sometimes I just push myself too much, and so that's when my parents really step in and help me handle it and say, everything's going to be okay, just take a deep breath.
One thing that causes me stress and probably causes a lot of other people stress is my little brother. He annoys me sometimes, and what I normally do is I just kind of like put myself out of the situation. But what I really should do is like confront him with like how he annoys me and tell him like how I feel.
One time I was really stressed out is when I was in school, and I always felt like my teacher, whatever I did, it just wasn't right. Whatever I did, she just didn't like it, and I felt like she was always picking on me. So I went to my school counselor, and she ended up talking to my teacher, and then after that, everything was okay.
Yeah, one time I was stressed, I was at soccer, and my coach was like always on my back about everything, and like it felt like nothing I did was good. So I ended up talking to him and talking to my family about it to try and resolve the situation to make it better.
The root of our anxiety usually comes from the fact that we can't control a certain aspect of our lives.
We are anxious about sports, girlfriends or boyfriends, school, family, and the list goes on.
It's unclear what will happen over the next few days or even years.
Oftentimes, stress and anxiety can snowball and make us even more anxious.
Let's go back to the teens on the street as they share some of their stories.
My first airplane trip, and I thought I was going to freak out and die and not have air to breathe, so I was breathing in a bag, but it turns out it was nothing. All I had to do was chew gum.
There was one time I was on Xbox Live with my boyfriend, and he invited a lot of his friends to the party, and I just got so nervous about it that I had to leave, and I made up an excuse to leave, and it was just really bad. I started shaking and crying.
I was camping in a tent, and there was a bear outside, and we got real scared, and we just didn't go outside and wait until it left.
A couple of my friends have experienced a lot of anxiety, and a lot of them actually threatened to kill themselves. If you take time to talk to someone, it'll actually go away, help them out.
When my mom drives, she gets a lot of worry and anxiety about like driving in the dark.
I was getting pretty bad grades. Wasn't sure if I was gonna get into college or not, but worked it up. Now I'm going to Syracuse.
Sometimes it can get really stressful with like exams and all that stuff, but you just kind of have to suck it up and just do it.
One of my friends, she was just so nervous behind the wheel because it was like her first time driving, and she like drove on the side of the dividers. So she's okay, but like she has so much anxiety, but she was just freaking out on the highway, and she just went onto the divider.
Many times there are circumstances and situations we simply can't control.
But they cause us great pain and worry.
Madison talks about a stressful family situation and shares how she dealt with it.
One time that I was dealing with stress and that I just felt I couldn't handle it anymore was when my father told me that he was going to get a divorce from my mother. His main reason for telling me was that he wanted to tell me first before I heard any rumors or anything. Dealing with that situation was really hard and stressful for me because you don't want to bring that kind of worry, worry that's out of your hands into your social life and into schoolwork and, into yourself, that it's just clogging your mind and it's always there. I kept it cool in front of him, like I was like, oh, okay, yeah. And I was eating my cereal at that time, so I was distracted with the cereal. But later, I was praying to God and I was like, what is this? What does this mean? How am I gonna get through this? My two sisters, we talk a lot about it, and that's the comfort within this whole process is I feel like we're growing together stronger because we're getting through this. I made the decision myself that I would go with my father. It made it a little bit less nerve-wracking because now I know where I'm going to go. But it has definitely opened up more questions and more anxiety like where are we gonna live and stuff like that. I'm just sort of looking for the process to be over. That way I can like find a calm within myself and really reflect on what's happening. For kids going through family stresses, I would say definitely talk to someone, get out your emotions, get out your feelings, and tell it to somebody. And that can be God, and that could be a sister or a guidance counselor or whatever, but that's what usually helps, is to get it out and talk about it. And then things are solved also when you bring things to the table like that.
I totally relate to what Madison was saying. A few months ago, my parents got divorced, and it's so much stress, you know, who am I gonna live with, what house am I going to, where's my stuff at, you know, all that stuff. And like she was saying, it definitely helps to talk to someone. Like for me, my pastor at my church, he was just so like relieving to get all the things off your chest and just talk about it.
It's like if you're going through like a hard time, just like talk to your parents about it, or like a close brother or sister that could like really help you through it.
There was a time I was not doing so well in school because I was kind of focusing on my extracurricular activities, and I just didn't know what to do. I was kind of really just getting stressed out and worrying about everything. So I went to my older brother. He just gave me like advice on how to get through it. Just take a break from the extracurriculars and focus, get back on track.
I think that sometimes we think of talking to God like the last thing, like, oh, if I can't talk to this, I'll just talk to God. But I think that that should definitely be the first person. I know for me personally, that's the first person who I talk to about anything, because God, like Nick was saying before when we were talking about the episode, God knows us the best. And what better person to ask questions to and to talk to than somebody who knows you better than yourself?
Yeah, I recently started driving, and the other day I was driving and there were like 3 merges in a row, and on the first merge, I kind of like hit a curb, and I was freaking out, like I was shaking and everything, and I was so stressed out. So I just like pulled over and I said my guardian angel prayer, and I just like prayed and relaxed, and like the peace of mind it gave me helped me, and it just like, you know, the feeling that even if something bad happened, I'm like in God's hands and like His will would be done.
I think a great group to talk to is your family, because they know you really well and they probably know you better than yourself.
We asked the teens on the street what they do to deal with stress. Let's hear them now.
If I'm stuck on a situation, I like to just put it aside and try to work on something easier and then come back to it, or I just ask somebody for help.
Usually I just use whatever people tell me and stuff.
Focus on yourself, do what makes you happy.
To get over my anxiety, I usually try to talk to my best friend, or I try to just breathe and realize that it's not going to turn out that way.
Try to keep your mind off things. I just write. I mean, I'd find something that you like to do and just do it continuously.
Usually just do sports or something that gets my mind off of it.
I just usually swim, and that gets out all like tension and anger and everything.
Do something that's relaxing to you.
Don't let things get to you so easily, just chill, and don't let people like get in your head.
Talking out my anxiety or, you know, problems that I ever had always helps a lot.
I usually go to my friends or something and ask them what they would do.
Just gotta chill out.
Just let things happen.
Just cool off and just calm down a little bit. Just take some time to yourself.
Just live your life to the fullest. You know, you can't always be stressed about every little thing. You only have one life to live, so just live it to the fullest.
Just like Madison, many of the teens said they talked to friends and family to help them out.
Madison offers another way to reduce your worries.
Surrendering your troubles to God and reaching out for help. Let's check it out.
When I hear the expression, "don't worry, be happy," usually it gets me really upset because I don't like it when people are like, "oh, you need to calm down," because they don't understand most of the time. But after, like when they usually walk away, I'll think about it and I'll be like, you know, they're right. I really need to calm down, and I'll listen to it, and it usually helps me. To get over my worries and anxiety, I usually will take time, you know, just to myself and think and like analyze things that I know I can fix at that very second, and then try and let go of the things that I know I can't. I'll usually like sit and rest and just like close my mind and reboot, sort of. Usually when I pray to God about my stress, I'm just like talking to Him, you know, like He's my friend. I'm always like, I need help, and I know you know I need help, so please help me lessen what I'm going through. Show something that has happiness in it, that I'll forget about my stresses.
How do you think surrendering your troubles to God can help you deal with the stresses in your life?
I know if you surrender your stress to God, it like helps you think that you're not in it alone and He's always going to be right next to you. And that's a good thing to think of when you're going through a hard time.
Yeah, I can agree. It's not always easy surrendering your anxieties to God, but it will help in the long run, and it kind of makes you feel like there's someone there.
As Rachel was saying before, God's the person who truly understands us. He knows us better than ourselves. And, it's not always easy to carry that burden, but when you go to God and just completely surrender yourself, that burden switches shoulders, the cross switches shoulders, and it makes you calm that someone else knows you like you know yourself.
I think we also have to remember that, like my grandma always said, your will might not always be God's will. So like, if you're praying for something and God doesn't like automatically give it to you, you can't be like, oh God, like you're terrible. Because if you're praying for like winning the lottery or, to get a great grade on the test, like just because it doesn't happen your way doesn't mean, it's not in God's plan. Maybe you're learning a lesson from it. Like you have to study to get that grade. Like His will isn't always what you think is your will.
I know for me, like right before I go to sleep, I always just reflect on my day. And I usually have a lot of stress at night because everything just comes back to me. So that's when I just pray to God and I give it up to Him. And I think like before I really started prayer, like when I was younger, I was a lot more stressed out because I didn't know how to deal with the stress that I had. But now that I know that God's there and God's open and God's willing to listen to what I have to say and listen to my stresses and that God has a plan for me, it's so comforting, and I'm able to sleep better just like physically, and I'm just renewed in that kind of.
I mean, I don't really know how to surrender anything to God, but I really think that I should try it because eventually it will help you.
It is hard to face your anxieties and what worries you all the time, but I feel when I talk to God and let Him know what's bothering me or what's troubling me, it's like a weight off my shoulders, and I just feel so much better and feel more confident and that I could face what is troubling me.
Sometimes I sing, sometimes I pray. I do a lot of writing too, but it's like afterwards you just feel this grace, this serenity that just carries you through until you just for the next time.
These are all like positive experiences, but I know sometimes it'll make me even more stressed out. Like I had this one time where I just really had a panic attack because I just felt like God wasn't hearing me. And so I think that's just because we're human and just because that happens. But I feel like eventually, like I learned something from that, and I learned that I really have to work to trust in God, because trust, as we know in the physical world is something that's hard to maintain. So I think I have to work on building my trust in God so that I can have a better relationship with Him. In Peter's first letter, he says, "Cast all your anxiety on Him because He cares for you."
Notice he says cast. It doesn't say passively give your stress to God.
We should actively seek God's help with our concerns, completely letting go.
When we hold on to these concerns, we become weighted down, stressed.
When we surrender, we are lightened because we trust God instead of ourselves.
There's a sense of peace and hope.
We asked the teens on the street if they thought God could help with their anxiety and stress.
Let's see what they had to say.
If I have anxiety over something, I just pray that God can lead me down the right path.
Talking to God can ease a lot off your chest, make you feel better about yourself.
I guess it will give you faith, and just like know that someone's there. If you do feel alone, someone will always be there, which will be God.
I am a Christian, and I believe that if you were to go and pray and stuff, that eventually God will help you, and everything happens for a reason.
If you can get that little extra help from God or whoever you believe in, then it always gives you that little sense of that you're not just alone.
I don't know how prayer and faith could help because I honestly don't believe in anything.
I feel like having faith in something, it really does help you a lot because it just shows you that, you always have someone to look up to and that they'll always be here for you no matter what.
I think it has a lot to do with helping someone calm down with anxiety, emotionally, mentally.
God's word, I guess, can help you through a lot of stuff.
He'll always be there. Like, you can always count on someone.
I guess just someone to listen to. Like he will listen to you in your times of worry.
If you pray, it's basically a conversation with God, and He always talks back to you. So He may not say directly like, "Oh, you gotta study to do well in this test," or the answers, but He'll help you in some way, just making you feel more confident.
If we're having a really, really hard trouble, like getting over it, like he'll help us, like he'll guide us through the path of helping us getting over our anxiety.
In the first letter of Peter in the Bible, Peter writes, "Cast all your worries upon him because he cares for you." Can you share how this speaks to you about how God will help us through our anxiety?
I believe that it's saying that just put it all in his hands, God's hands, and that he could take control of everything. And don't take on everything by yourself. That if you try to do it by yourself, you will never win. So with him, you will find that extra strength.
Next, Madison talks about praying for strength and a clear head.
And how she surrenders to God and asks for help.
Somebody I look for help when I'm dealing with anxiety would usually be my really calm and mellow friends. They're usually the ones that are telling me to calm down, so I'll look at them and see how easy they are that day, and I'll just be like, I need to calm down. One Bible passage that comes to mind when dealing with stress and anxiety would be the night before Jesus was crucified, when he's praying in the Garden of Gethsemane, and he's asking God to remove the burden that he's about to deal with, and if he can't, to help him through that time. And for me, his determination and strength and focus in that prayer time between just him and God is really special. It's a great model that I live by. Prayer and faith can help cope with anxiety because usually when you pray, you're thinking about things that you would like to improve or things you need help on, and that's what usually worrying is. So you take the load off by offering it up to God. To me, the cast your worries upon him is kind of like, I feel that we should surrender to him and say, I need help, that was too much. You can always rely on God to help you in a stressful time. Prayer and Mass, it's a quiet time, and it's just reflecting on you and God. And when you enter church or when you enter prayer, you clear your mind of your anxiety. And I feel a lot of people don't take that time during the day to do that. And prayer is a great time to de-stress yourself and really focus on what's important. My advice for the others who worry or feel anxious would be to take time and talk to God. Think about what you can do now. Don't think ahead. What can you affect now? And let go. It'll work itself out.
Can you share a time when God helped you through your worries or anxieties?
Well, at the end of the school year, finals were coming up, and I really wanted to do good. And it was also the end of my soccer season, and we were in a run for first place. I needed to focus on soccer, and I also needed to focus on school. I was stressing out about both. And after praying to God, it kind of calmed me down, and I realized I should balance it out, maybe miss a couple practices to study, and it really helped me out.
My school did Seussical as our show last school year. It was the second night. We had a fire drill. Everything was really stressed out, and we knew the people that were going to be judging us for our awards were there. So a few of my Catholic friends and I, we had a prayer circle, and we just prayed, and we found our center and focused. And it was one of our best shows ever. We actually got nominated for 14 awards.
At my school, I was in my first show ever, and I was completely nervous, and I was so afraid that I was going to mess up a line or miss a dance move. But before I went on stage, I just prayed to God and asked him to take away all my worries and all my stress about messing up, and just to guide me through a great show, and it really did help.
When my grandmother was dying 2 years ago, I was really confused and really just stressed out about everything and what was happening. And so I just remember praying, and I tried the rosary, I tried all these different types of prayers, and I realized that what I was praying for was for her to be out of pain. And that inside, of course I wanted her to live, I love her. And so I was kind of caught up in that, and I realized, well, maybe she needs to be with God in heaven. So he kind of put that idea in my head. So he kind of cured my anxieties by telling me this is what needs to happen. And it wasn't like a magic moment. It was kind of through prayer and through realization that I realized that this is what's best for her, and she gets to be in heaven. And I think that's an awesome gift.
When I was in 8th grade, I broke my leg playing softball, and I got my cast on the day I made my confirmation. And for my confirmation, I got a medal that had St. Francis on it. And then when I got my cast off and I was playing softball again, instead of wearing the necklace, I kept it in my softball bag. So it was a reminder that God is always with me, and he'll always keep me safe while I'm playing.
This past year, I've been planning college and everything and what I want to major in. And I've basically had decided that I was going to major in psychology and minor in business, and I had like this whole plan, and then I started like feeling that I had this like call from God, like a vocation, and so I was really struggling with it, and I talked about it with my parents, and they were like, you know, I don't really know if that's very realistic, so I didn't feel like I had anybody. So I asked God to send the Holy Spirit to guide me, and literally like the next day I went to Mass, and the whole scripture was, or the whole gospel was about the vocation that I was feeling called to, and he was talking about how this person had came to the church and talked about how it was such a struggle for him to decide that that was what he wanted to do with his life, and it was just like, wow, like this is really what you're calling me for. And ever since then I've been really praying for guidance and trust from my parents and guidance from them as well.
Before every soccer game, I always say a quick prayer to God, and just to give me a clear head and to give me strength to do my best in every game. And it clears my head and gives me like motivation to do my best.
Worry is a negative response to a situation.
But concern is a positive response that leads to taking action
and trying to do something about the situation.
A combination of offering it up to God
and acting in a way that is within your control.
So how does casting your worries upon God help you cope?
We'd love to hear from you.
Contact us at realfaithtv.com.
Or share your thoughts with us on Twitter.
And we'll leave you today with this from Matthew chapter 6.
Therefore, I tell you, do not worry about your life,
what you will eat or drink, or about your body, what you will wear.
Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothes?
Look at the birds of the air.
They do not sow or reap or store away in barns.
And yet your heavenly Father feeds them.
Are you not much more valuable than they?
God actually wants our anxieties, even if it might not be easy for us to give them over to Him.
It takes practice and trust on our part.
So let's get practicing.
So that we can actually navigate life with peace, knowing He is in control.
Thanks for watching.
We'll see you next time on
Real Faith TV. God bless.